Alright, it's been more than a few minutes, and I haven't even touched this game in a minute, so I gotta get right to the actual part of the challenge run. The sphere grid is very limited at this point. You can't really deviate too far, but it will happen. You think this looks like a PlayStation 1 game? You should check what an actual PlayStation 1 game looks like. Like, the Final Fantasy games on PlayStation 1 look amazing for PlayStation 1 games. But it's the like Final Fantasy X is definitely the most PlayStation 1 like of them all. But that's just because I think I have a theory that it was a partially converted PlayStation 1 game because there are pre-rendered backgrounds and some weird animations and stuff. The camera angles are very PlayStation 1. There's lots of fixed camera angles and stuff. This is the end of the Squaresoft style Final Fantasy games. After this, they really started deviating. They made an MMO, they made Final Fantasy 12, they made Final Fantasy 13, they made Final Fantasy 13 2, they made Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns, then they made another MMO, then they made Final Fantasy 15, so it's been pretty non-standard ever since. Ooh. Nice. Honestly, okay, so Tidus is such a fuckboy. This entire scene, like, he just takes this guy's binoculars. It's really like there's so many exaggerated moments of Tidus being like super annoying or whatever, but this is actually like really like, dude, come on. Anyways, what else have we got in terms of the chat? So yeah, Magic Tidus, Physical Yuna, etc., etc. That's the challenge I'm going for this time because I've beaten this game plenty of times and I want to do something different. And I've always wanted to try messing with the sphere grid because you can in theory do that, but there's so little reason to do so. And yes, Marvin, sorry for sneaking in under your radar. I'm hoping to be able to start streaming a bit more consistently now. I've worked out a bit of stuff and I've got a planning app that I'm using to keep things a bit more not bad. I can't control just like waking up and not feeling well or other stuff outside of my control, but I'm hoping, knock on wood, to be more consistent going forward instead of having these massive breaks. And I've left a bit more time open in my day for it too, so I can do it a bit earlier like this, or I can do it at my usual time, or I can do it a little bit later, where it used to be a very strict window of time where if I was even like a little bit behind, then it would just basically not be worth it to do a stream at all. So I'm hoping things work better now. Parasite Eve's sound design destroyed you? I mean, honestly, I'm super not familiar with Parasite Eve. Like, the big thing is, I know that the final boss music, Yoko Shimomura goes mask off and just turns into Kingdom Hearts mode. I think it starts going nuts with the organ.
Come to think of it, I haven't told you where we're going. First to Kilika Island. Then we change boats and head for Luca. For that though, Yuna's gotta pray at the temple. I'll be guarding. We'll be praying for the Aurochs' victory too.
So yeah, I'm not forcing myself to stream. I enjoy it a lot. And I need to do it more while I'm in between editing work. Things have not been going well on that front, so I'm hoping to get this going a bit more and wink wink something else.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
Yeah, I mean, the PlayStation 1 was definitely
Word is that
like
summoner's got
massively
noble
defined by
blood.
the fact that people were stoked that they finally had storage space for sound effects
Don't say.
and music. Usually only one or the
Lord
other, but you know,
Vraska's
that's more
daughter?
than what they had with Nintendo. Although, to be totally honest, I really miss the Super Nintendo era. And it still persisted in a bit of the PlayStation 1, like Final Fantasy VII has it, where they would just have to make sound effects. I think that it's such a distinct vibe. Like,
So is Yuna's father
you know, a
famous
really
or
obvious
something?
one would be Kefka's Laugh or Lavos'
She's the
Scream
daughter of
from
High
Final
Summoner
Fantasy VI and
Vraska.
Chrono Trigger,
You saw his
respectively.
statue at the temple.
Like,
Lord Vraska defeated
there's-
Sin 10 years ago.
there's something to that you just can't get anywhere
Yuna's the heir
else.
to a great
And
legacy.
no one's gonna bother making their own sound effects now. Like, why would you make
tough.
a weird, warbly, synthetic
Father's
fire sound
famous.
effect when you can just go to a stock sound store and get the sound of
What was a
fire?
bit lacking in
And but the thing is, it
imagination
ends up being so much
department.
less distinct, in my opinion. But I can see why it's not worth the
Thanks,
effort.
Lulu. I'll keep that in mind.
Jack Shot isn't yet. And yeah, Ratchet and Tidus have very like it's weird. James Arnold Taylor has a ton of range. I think I mentioned this on the last stream.
The wind. It's nice.
But oh, I just totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, James Arnold Taylor. He has tons of range, but he gets typecast to do this exact voice so often. Like, it is a very like quintessential cartoony kind of voice. Kind of weird to use for a not terribly
You're a
cartoony game
Blitzball
like Final
player,
Fantasy
aren't you?
X, but
From Xanarkand,
yeah.
right?
You hear that from Waka? Huh. Waka. Waka doesn't believe me at all.
Your brother feels ashamed to own Final Fantasy 13? Sounds like they have watched too
I've
many
heard in
YouTubers.
Xanarkand There is a great stadium,
Oops.
all lit up.
Should not have left
even
my
at
phone in
night.
here.
Great blitzball tournaments are held there, and the stands are always full.
How do you know that?
A man named Jack told me. He was my father's guardian.
Checked. My father. His name is Jecht.
Amazing! You know, our meeting like this must be the blessing of Yevon.
Sounds like him, but it can't be him.
Why not?
My oh man,
Yeah, I don't know.
he
The way
died
people talk about Final Fantasy 13 is
10 years ago.
very like
Off the
is that
coast of
is very
Zen.
Sonic actually, where it's just the same old meme
I'm
stances,
sorry.
and like they haven't evolved in.
He went out to seek
How
the
long has it
trade.
been? Has it been a decade? Yeah, he went 2009. Jesus. So yeah, no, it's been like 12 years. And people
no one's seen
haven't
him
stopped
since
saying the
then.
exact same boring stuff. We're like, oh man, these people don't talk like
Right, that's the
humans.
day
They
that
say
Jecht came to
lines of
Spira.
dialogue that don't correlate
It's
to how
true,
I think people
first
should
met
talk.
Jecht 10 years and 3
And
months ago.
I mean, the auto battle thing is a
remember that
problem
was the
because
day
the
my
game's
father
combat has nuance to it, but it takes a long time to get there.
The date fits, doesn't it?
I don't think it's possible to experience Final Fantasy VII blind anymore because it's just too ubiquitous. Like,
You're here?
despite the fact that Final Fantasy didn't make any appearance in Wreck-It Ralph, I'm pretty sure there is a thing of graffiti that says Aerith lives. So like, it's that, like, it's on the level of like having Pac-Man and stuff in there. So, Sephiroth was the OG Sans. To be totally honest, Sephiroth is not terribly nuanced as far as Final Fantasy villains go. Like, he's kind of not. It's not as bad as Boba Fett, but it's kind of the Boba Fett energy, where it's like, wow, yeah, no, he's so cool. He has a big sword, and he's a higher level than Cloud, and that's about it. Because I don't think his plan is terribly interesting. I don't think that the things he does are particularly interesting. I don't think the fact that he goes insane is very interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in 13 that is just flat out not mentioned. Like, I forget exactly how it works, but there's something called a stab bonus.
What do you think you're doing?
Like,
Stick around
there's...
shooting him and we'll all
It's
get
weird, because,
Sin is going for killing
like,
us. We gotta
it's so
distract
heavily tutorialized because they're, like, terrified that people aren't going to figure out how to do a really not very complex macro management system.
him. Wait,
Um,
boy.
I don't know, I'm if they finally release the 13 games on Game Pass, I'm probably gonna have a look at them on stream. Maybe I don't know if I'll do a full thing of that because RPGs do take up a lot of time, and streams aren't really conducive to long games. I don't think. Yeah, Yuna has heterochromia. It's a major plot point. So remember that for 20 hours from now. So yeah, this is definitely something that I mentioned with the last stream, was how 10 was really trying to showcase these huge cinematic turn-based battles, and that never really went anywhere afterwards because they just dropped turn-based as a concept. But this is another cool example, although the water in the background is such a drastic improvement from what it looked like in the PlayStation 2 version. In the PlayStation 2 version, it's just like this really ugly flat texture. But now it actually looks like it's like roiling and all that. It's really good. It actually looks way more in line with the CG. The 13 series is iffy on Steam. The port of 13 is not abysmal, but it's not very good, and you have to use mods to get it up to proper quality. The 13.2 port is infamously terrible, and then the Lightning Returns one is actually, well, not anything special by PC standards. It's the best way to play the game because it's the only version that has 60 FPS. And it runs fine. Like, that's the one port that's solid. Oop, I thought I was controlling Waka. Oh, is Evan crashed your laptop? Yeah. Square. I just realized I can see that the fin is just a floating object. There's nothing attached to it. 'Cause the water probably wasn't transparent in the original version, or something. Oh man, whoops. Do I think they really model a whole fish? There is a whole model for the fish, though. Like, this is a major character in the game, so they have a full model. They probably just couldn't render it all on the PlayStation 2. It's really finicky trying to get the right combination of buttons to target other things sometimes because the camera angle shifts all the time. It's one of those oddities of this era. Because there's so much rock, paper, scissors type stuff with this game, it's gonna be weird when I reach a point where it's like, okay, now use Lulu to use a range attack on this distant enemy, but all she has is heavy physical attacks from Auron. So yeah, now it's up and down to shift, but before it was left and right. It is somewhat clunky. Using a skybox to create the illusion of something that's too big to model is pretty clever. I miss those kinds of tricks that games used to have to rely on to get things across. Like this game had a ton of really nice looking pre-rendered backgrounds, and they aged way better than the 3D part of the game.
That's where they're coming from.
Like they really wanted to show off all these camera angles and stuff. Oh, I wasn't supposed to know that I can attack the fin. He's already almost dead. So this actually, I remember, is a place you can use early on to grind up your AP, because these enemies do keep coming forever, so as long as you can maintain your health, you're set for life. But obviously you get a very small amount of AP, so it's not the most efficient thing in the world. Also, there's a really good item you can get from this boss, but it's random. Some people reset the fight to do that, but I'm not bothered with that. Like, this game doesn't have skippable cutscenes, so I'm not sitting through stuff for a random chance of something good, especially on camera. Alright, Lulu's about to defeat Sin. Oh, the Steam port has fast forward? Man, I hate how this happens so much with Square Enix games, where they'll add these features in the next port over, and then not patched into previous ports. Like, this version of the game, you can switch between the remastered and classic OST, which wasn't an option in the PlayStation 3 version. And there's always little stuff like that. Sometimes they port it forward. Like Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, they ported all the Xbox stuff and switched stuff back into the PlayStation 4 version. But they don't usually do that, and it's really weird and annoying. Yeah, honestly, Marvin, as a general rule, illusions just age better. Like, because they're tricks. They're not actually, like, brute force recreation. It's not like when you make a realistic looking 3D model or something like that. When you're creating the illusion of detail, unless the illusion can't be ported forward very well, like Dreamcast games suffer from this, where they were too ahead of their time, and a lot of their stuff, like lighting and transparency, couldn't be ported into PlayStation and GameCube and stuff like that. But a lot of times, like, for example, one of my favorite, most simple effects ever is 60 FPS flickering to create the illusion of transparency. Like when you make, if you have two lines and then you flicker between the left and right line, you can create the illusion of like a waterfall. That's what old Sonic games do, for example. It's pretty cool. That's what I love. Alright, I got Lancet, so I should be able to survive this easily enough, but it is weird because there's got these 4 guys in the corner, but there's no way to take them out with a boss axe. But if I don't take them out, then they do extra damage, but I only get 2 party members and it's an early boss, so who cares? And overthinking things is never ideal. So these enemies attacking one by one actually reminds me, because I recently beat, well not that recently now, but I beat Dragon Quest XI, and I assume this is a Dragon Quest staple in general, but there's a thing where as the game goes on, the bosses start to be able to act more often in one turn, and I honestly, even though the game's totally perfectly well balanced around that, I always found that frustrating because it just doesn't feel good when an enemy can attack more times than you can. But the thing is that games can totally cheat it like they are right here, where there's 4 little fish guys and each one of them is 1 attack. And that feels fine. It's like, oh yeah, no, there's 5 enemies, so of course. But meanwhile, if it was just this one jellyfish guy could have 5 attacks, I'd be like, what? This early of a fight? That's bullshit. It's interesting how game design is mostly psychology. Man, the potion scaling in this game is super weird. I didn't actually see if that was 100 or 150 health, but then you go to high potion and it's like 1500 health, and then Albed potions are 2000, and then I think the next thing after that is just max. Because your health does balloon quite a bit in this game. Oh. For certain characters, at least. Yeah, I do know about that. There is unique dialogue for different deaths and such. It's pretty cool. I mean, not something I can very easily show off. It might happen just because of the nature of this run, but yeah, there's tons and tons of incidental dialogue for all kinds of different situations. It's very cool. So yeah, there's this is also something that's not going to come up because of how this run's working, but there's unique dialogue for using certain abilities and spells and stuff, but I'm pretty sure no character has it for abilities and spells they're not going to use on their main path. Although maybe they do. Maybe I'll find out, because I usually only get through about 2.5 sphere grids per person before I stop playing 10. I've never maxed out a sphere grid. Oh, sometimes when the camera gets weird, it means the boss is gonna die. Uh-oh. Okay, that's gotta be it. Yeah, it's flickering, not flickering, twitching. It's the iconic Final Fantasy X tell when they start loading in the fact that the boss is gonna die because they can't quite keep up. It's actually really bad in 10.2 sometimes, when an enemy will just start twitching for like 10 seconds or more. Oh yeah, so a lot of Lulu's weapons, I'm pretty sure, at least early on, are elemental. So that might be pretty handy if once she starts getting into R and Sphere Grid, because she'll have high attack but also elemental attack. Although, having elemental attack can be rough because it can reduce your damage too. But we'll see. It's hard to predict how this run's going to go. Walker has one for zombie attack. Interesting, because that, yeah, I mean, Arn having zombie attack is one of those weird things where it's more of a lore thing than it is the actual, like, it's not really his thing to inflict status ailments. And honestly, also, zombie isn't a terribly useful status effect to use yourself. I'm sure there's specific strats you can use. Like, I guess if an enemy is vulnerable to zombie and then you can use Phoenix Downs on them, then you could probably defeat some tough enemies that way. Though, that is just the problem with Final Fantasy in general, is that it's very often not easy to tell when an enemy is vulnerable to certain statuses. It's just like, oh, this enemy, there's a version of Seymour who's weak to poison, and that makes a really tough fight into more of a joke. But like, you're not going to be going around using poison all the time because most enemies are immune to it. All those people are dead? Yeah, things happen. It's the circle of life.
Attacked Xanarkand that day, I woke
People
up in
die,
Spira.
and then Yuna dances.
I kept
you know.
hoping it would work in reverse, too.
I will defeat sin. I must defeat sin.
I was just fooling myself. Maybe it was that day, on the sea, under the burning sun.
Girl boss Yuna? Not yet.
started
Right
to
now,
give
her
up hope.
stats are more or less in line with how they normally would be.
I
But
was in a
soon,
foreign
she will
world.
have immense speed
I
and
wasn't
strength.
going home.
And she just will have
This
immense
was my
speed
new
and magic.
reality,
I'm not sure
and
why
I was
Yuna
stuck in
has
it for
such high
good.
speed, actually. I guess maybe just for the sake of being a white mage so she can act fast and actually get in before enemies attack again. Maybe. People call this sexy sax music, and I don't get it. It just sounds like sad
I am
saxophone
the
music to
summoner
me.
Yuna. I have come from the temple in Besaid.
Oh, Milady Summoner!
If there is no other summoner here, please allow me to perform the sending.
Thanks, BTA.
Our
Yeah,
loved
Bravely
ones.
Default tries
We feared they
to
would
have those
become
vulnerabilities
thieves.
to make jobs more
Please,
viable too,
take me
I
to them.
think. Where, you know, if there's some well, the job in 2 are super weird also, so it makes sense they'd have to have some weirder boss design as well. But I think they do still kind of fail at that. Granted, I haven't beaten the game, but Bravely Default's boss design goes real downhill at the end. Oh, meanwhile, Dragon Quest is actually definitely the opposite, where you can use basically whatever all the time, because they want everything to be balanced and viable. So, like, there's going to be a tough, like, it's going to be stuff where it's like, you can get a tough enemy poisoned and then use Eric's ability that gives him way more damage to poisoned enemies, but it's going to be harder to get the poison on it and stuff like that. Meanwhile, you could just purely buff up your characters, but then they might lose the debuffs, or they might get targeted a bunch, and then you have to revive them, and you lose all the debuffs. And like, there was never a strategy I encountered in Dragon Quest that felt like it couldn't work, because it always felt it kind of a very Mario type thing of they took it into account. Like, even if you do intense damage, it's not going to one-shot the boss, and it's not going to be so weak that it's not worth it. Whereas Final Fantasy is absolutely way more of a Sonic type thing, where it's just kind of loose and just do whatever, but also because it's so much looser, they have to just make a lot of bosses more or less immune to status ailments. I don't think there's ever been a final boss in a Final Fantasy game that I've
what's
played
ascending?
where you could
Are we going
use
somewhere?
meaningful status ailments on it.
You truly are clueless. Are you sure it's just your memory that's the problem? The dead need guidance.
Alright, this upcoming area though. Oh, I should probably get
Filled with
the
grief
guide ready
over
just
their
in
own
case I
death.
can't do the
They
Cloister Trials
refuse to
because they're
face
very
their
weird.
fate.
Um,
They yearn to
but we're
live
finally
on
going to be breaching into the
and
actual
resent
sphere
those
grid
still
and getting
alive.
stuff.
You see, they envy the living. And in time, that envy turns to anger, even hate.
And then suffering.
Should these souls remain in Spira, they become fiends that prey on the living. Sad, isn't it? The sending takes them to the far plane, where they may rest in peace.
Summoners do this?
Yeah, SMT games are big on their statuses. I mean, Persona 2, but not quite as much. Yuna's ability to walk on water gets more use in spin-off material than the actual game. See, like, Yuna just got a unit in one of the gacha games, I think Brave Exvius, and her CG is this dance, but then just makes a giant sigil and makes a giant explosion. Because, you know, when I think of a dance that sends the dead to their eternal rest, I also think of doing big damage. This is actually also her finishing move in several Dissidia games. Which just it implies that she is sending whoever she's fighting, who, despite not being dead, she's sending them to the afterlife. Hello, Defake Chicken. I'm not sure if this is the game you've heard so much about, but Final Fantasy X is very popular, so it's possible.
It must be tough, being a summoner.
Yuna chose her own path. She knew from the beginning what it meant. All we can do is protect her along the way, until the end.
Until the end? What's the end?
Until she defeats sin.
Oh,
Yeah, the priestess aesthetic is fine,
hope I
but
did
I do
okay.
like her 10-2 design more. Also, because guns
You
are
did
cooler.
very well. They've reached
Like,
the far plane
It's a
by
shame
now, but
they bring
no
back
tears
her
next
gunner
time.
design in other games, like in
I wish
Dissidia, for
there would
example, but
never
she still
be
uses
a
her
next
staff,
time.
so
No more people
Yeah.
being killed by sin.
yeah, I say.
No more sendings for Yuna. Everyone stood there watching her. It was strange, and somehow horrifying. I never
Yeah,
wanted
people
to see it
do.
again.
In the game, they often act like Tidus is an idiot for not knowing what's going to happen to Yuna, but they also are just clearly uncomfortable with actually acknowledging it. So. The writing is definitely on the wall, though. Because like every one of these scenes is super awkward with lots of awkward pauses. Yay, it's the iconic kid. If they really cared, then in 10-2 they would have brought this kid back and he'd be a blitzball now. Oh yeah, got a thing for Lulu. Let's see what it do. I don't think Lulu actually believes that Tidus is suffering from Sin's toxin. Oh yeah, wait, where was I going with Wakka? He's gonna be Albed, right? Where is the Albed route? I don't want to go to Lulu route. Someone else is going, Oran's going Lulu route. So, right, I need a level 1 key sphere, and the first one I can get is in Mihen High Road. That's a bit off. Might as well get this one last stat point at the very least. And I can't wait to get to the point where I can actually start seeing these characters function differently. Oh yeah, gotta remember to stock up on ability spheres. I think... Yeah, extract ability, so I just gotta remember to use that a bit to keep myself stocked up properly. Oh, so Defate Chicken, basically, normally this game has preset routes along this grid that let you build your character into the way that they're supposed to be built. For example, the main character Tidus is based around speed and strength. So he can hit enemies that have high evasion, and he has decent damage. Whereas the secondary protagonist, Yuna, she's based around speed and magic, but particularly healing. She has lots of restorative spells. But basically, I'm using the advanced sphere grid where everyone starts more or less in the middle, and I'm going to send them down the wrong path and see how far I can go before this ruins the game. Hopefully it won't, but it might. So right now they haven't deviated much at all, but they're going to start soon. They're all just still mingling in the middle. She's too busy gaslighting Wakka, Jesus. Anyone else? No, okay. But yeah, so I'm gonna have healer / magic, Tidus, physical, speed, Yuna, magic Auron, who isn't in our party yet. Lulu will have high strength, not armor piercing, 'cause that's a weapon ability actually, but we'll see how that goes. Wakka will be the thief, and Riku, who will join us later, will be the status effect dealer type person.
Huh? Whoa!
Yeah, it's a type of playthrough I've always wanted to do. And I've beaten this game plenty of times, so I think I can handle it. Kimahri will probably just be a thief. That's how I always build him, because there's a specific fight near the end of the game where you can steal some key spheres from him, and normally you're not going to get those very easily otherwise, so that's just kind of the niche he has to fill. I could do something else, but I don't even know what to do with Kimahri besides that. I'm going to try and spread him out. He's probably going to be very useful in this run, because he's going to kind of be the person who can fill the gaps. honestly, people always say how useless Kimari is, but the way I've built him in most of my runs he's been useful enough because he'll usually have a mix of some. I just kind of go into whatever nearby path looks good, so he usually has pretty high speed and strength, and then a decent mix of abilities. And plus, he always has steel, which you can't go wrong with steel. Okay, yeah, I rescued a kid, and you get a reward for that, but I don't know when or where. As I say, I've played this game multiple times, but the minutia of the side quests don't stick with me super well. I think it's in here. Oh yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna get all the Albread primers either, but the Albread, yes.
Ah, there you are. Be said, Aurochs. Huddle. On to the
Alright,
temple.
so yeah,
We'll be praying
besides
for victory.
whatever else is happening in this
High
bit,
Summoner
there is a
O'Halloran
boss,
used to
well,
live in
an
the
optional
Kalika
boss
temple
fight
here.
coming up that I don't
Yep.
think should be too hard to
Lord
take out.
O'Halloran was once a great blitzer, you know.
And you get an elixir if you do that. So
Praying for
that'll be a
victory
great item to
is
not
so
use.
good. But is this right?
Something wrong with enjoying blitzball?
Well, the problem with stuff like Stone Breath or whatever other limit breaks he has is that the limit breaks. So you have to have a full overdrive gauge. So like I'm not going to use that on a random encounter. That's the problem. And then so many of them are status ailment inducing, and that's not really useful in boss fights. So it's just, yeah, he's definitely not the strongest, and his blue magic is the like worst interpretation of blue magic in Final Fantasy, I think.
Temple's beyond the jungle there. Let's go.
Granted, I do appreciate how simple it is to get his blue magic. You just use Lancet. But honestly, I kind of feel like in order to make it work better, they should have made it so that in at least once per battle, if you use Lancet on an enemy that has a skill, you just get a full overdrive gauge instead of it just being the first time he learns it. Because that basically means there's 20 times the entire game where you get a free overdrive gauge, and that's just not that useful.
What's up?
Yuna is saying she wants you with us.
Huh?
I want to ask you to be my guardian.
You know what? There's no time for jokes, yeah? He may be a blitzball whiz kid, but up against fiends, he's a newbie.
Not a guardian.
Oh, but I do agree with the rest of your
I just
sentiment,
want
which
him
is that
nearby.
Himari is a late bloomer. Because it is just a bit hard for him to get into anything super
It's just
useful
that-
yet, that he won't just be behind another character. That's another reason why it's
We're all
good to
going
just
to
go
the
for
temple
Thief, I
anyway.
think,
Can't
because
just wait till later.
that's the last party member you get. So getting it a little
I'm
bit
sorry.
early,
I
it's
shouldn't
just
have.
a nice little thing.
There's nothing to be sorry about. I'm just
Kimari
not
is
really
trying
sure
his
what's
best,
going
and that's what
on.
matters.
My apologies.
There he is right now. You can't see it because he's covered in fur, but he was blushing. Okay, calm down a bit. This song reminds me of RuneScape, honestly. I think there's actually a song that sounds very similar, but just the vibe in general is very like 2000s PC game to me. Which, I mean, this is a 2000s game, but when I think 2000s PC game, I don't think of Japanese games. I think of Western games I played back then. Or I assume RuneScape is Western. It might be some weird, like,
What's a
European thing or something.
Normally, it's a skill that weakens enemies and heals the user. But when a Ronso uses it, that Ronso can sometimes learn Fiend's abilities.
Hey, sounds cool.
So yeah, Kimahri's first overdrive. A slight boost in damage. Wow, 300 entire damage. It didn't even finish it off. Like, that's the thing. Like, the overdrives you get for, well, all right. We're nearing the 1 hour mark anyway, so I might have to take a quick aside and grab some batteries. But, yeah, ooh, did not see that coming. Scout, right. Gotta check the equipment. What else have I got? Nothing. 5% is plenty. Okay. I think blind is more useful than ice. Dark Ward's actually going to probably be useful for her because I'm building her into strength this time. That's the thing I'm interested in, actually, is seeing how the gear gets messed up. Thank you, Sarah O'Neill? Sarah O'Neill. Is that what it is? Oh, is seed cannon gravity damage? That'd make it more useful, but usually they say that. They don't just, like, make you guess. Though, if there ever was a time to guess, it would be with Kimahri's blue magic. Oh yeah, and Tidus is going to need a silence word once he starts learning all that healing magic. It's going to be interesting because I feel like a lot of weapons and gear are specifically given to opposite characters than what they should, as like a weird kind of pseudo balancing, and it might end up being kind of broken sometimes. I might like for example, I know Wakka gets a blitz ball that petrifies enemies, and if I give him Riku's build like I'm planning, he's gonna get tons of turns, so he'll get tons of opportunities to just instantly kill enemies. When does Yuna get Yamato? That's an optional thing. It's gonna be near the Calm Lands, which is near the end of the game. It's not called Yamato, it's called Zanmato, but you know, close enough. Alright. Okay, I'll use Yuna to get some ability spheres going. Right, I should make sure it's an enemy I can actually hit.
Let us Guardians handle the likes of these.
So actually, a somewhat more useful thing about Lancet that's not explicitly stated is that it won't miss. It's like a magic attack, but free. Yuna's gonna Judgment Cut Sin. So that's the thing, is that Zanmato is actually one of the most powerful moves in the franchise. Not just the game, the franchise.
Got you covered.
Because it can one-shot basically every enemy, period. I'm pretty sure there's like a final boss that is immune to it. But besides that, it's just a move that will kill any enemy, period. So yeah, no, Zanmato is quite the thing. I don't think it'll be influenced at all by the build I'm doing for Yuna. I'm not 100% sure how builds are impacted by Yuna's stats actually in general, but we'll see, I suppose. Oh, I don't want to use that. Poison is devastating this game. It does percentage of your max HP as damage. Or maybe not max HP. Oh shoot, should have used something else. Oh well. Oh, whoops, I already had to use.
Let's end this.
Newbie here.
Sorry.
See ya.
Yeah, it'll insta-kill a form of a boss, and then you'll move on to the next form. But I'm pretty sure there are 2 bosses, I want to say, that are immune to it outright. Ironically, I don't think it's any of the super bosses. I think it's just probably for story reasons, like it might mess up something. I think that the very, very final boss and one other thing around the final boss are immune to it. Let's get some extra extraction going. Oh yeah, changing the cursor to memory is a thing in basically every Final Fantasy game. It's pretty handy. Yeah, I may have mentioned it, but if things do end up causing trouble, I'll probably just grind a bit off screen, because I am starting at a deficit of levels because of how I'm doing this, since I have to go backwards in the grid first. But I think it'll all work out. Ah, shoot, I didn't use Tidus. That's the thing, the only people who participate in battle actually get to move. Gotta decide with Walker what I'm gonna do while I wait for the... Oh, right. What am I gonna go around? Is there another way in? Alright, so yeah, if I go on Tidus's route, I can make my way in, but... I don't know. I feel like I can get to Mi'ihen High Road before I'll get to there, but I don't know. Wait a second. If I go down this way, to here, here, no, this is still way too many spaces just to get here. Never challenged Data Ursula in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I did not know there was such a thing as a Data Ursula. Atlantica's rhythm gauge at 5 times speed, that just sounds stupid. Like, I've managed to do the Atlantica stuff with the things at double speed thanks to the frame rate hack, but 5 times just sounds worthless. Like, that's impossible, basically. Oh, right. I remember now. I might just not have any luck and not actually get this, but if the opportunity arises, I might get a stat-raising sphere from the optional boss, and if so, then I'd be able to plant it right here in the middle, and most people would be able to actually get it. So that would be good. So I might just hold on for a bit. I don't know. This probably sounds a bit like gibberish. I'm hoping I can make this accessible to people who aren't super familiar with 10 like I am. Well, okay. I don't want to talk up my familiarity with 10 too much because I've beaten it a couple times and I don't know everything about it. And just at the point where I'm comfortable enough doing an additional run of some sort. Oof, that was a lot of damage. I am a gamer, but I'm not a capital G gamer. He was able to do the Ursula fight at 5 times speed. I mean, honestly, Sham is very good at games, as far as I'm aware. So that doesn't surprise me too much. Uh-oh. I wasn't paying attention to Tidus's health.
Take that! I'm good, yeah?
This does have the gyrating finishing, or not finishing, victory poses that PlayStation 1 games definitely had, so there is that too. Like, a lot of stuff actually in that era, like the Sonic Adventure animations also have that thing where it just feels like they're going too fast and they just look strange in general. Okay, I should get Tidus healed up. What do I have in terms of white magic? I'm gonna probably have to use Yuna to get him back up to speed. He's not coming up too great on strength either. That's not ideal. Does Yuna even have prey yet? No. She doesn't have white magic yet. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go.
Aid us.
Oh yeah, the X mashing being a problem makes sense. Okay, what do I have? I won't just kill it outright. Not much. Alright, someone's not gonna get EXP, I guess.
Enough.
It's gonna be weird seeing those animations for, like, there's no reason to really attack with Lulu, so it's gonna be weird seeing her with high strength. How am I doing? So I should probably say it before this boss, but I'm pretty confident in my ability to do it. Uh-oh. I didn't know enemies could do status ailments that early. That's not good. That's very extremely not good.
Light shine strong, our woe be gone.
Her accuracy is bad? Well, yeah, the accuracy... I don't think Auron has amazing accuracy, but it should improve it somewhat. Yes, Walker did get stoned.
Just thought I'd give it a try.
Hey,
That's
that one's
cute.
not ours, remember? Ow! Ow!
Yeah! All right!
Gotta remember to get those ability spheres, but I don't want to. I don't want to use extract ability on this thing. So let's see what have I got to keep things safe. That should be good. Wish me luck. Here we go. Oh yeah, Waka's got only 2 skill uses for the time being. He's only got the 10 MP, so that's... Oh, it's immune. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that at all. And doesn't have an Ronso Rage for Kimahri. Interesting. Anyways. At least has a clear-cut weakness. Yeah, I think Tidus is still going to be doing pretty well for DPS versus anyone else I can think of. Especially, oh, now there's no reason to use Jinx. That's a waste of time.
Yeah!
Alright. Oh, yeah, there's no way around her taking damage. I gotta rely on her for fire. So... yeah. Asuna first. Poison is way worse than any damage it could do. Oh yeah, I can get some overdrives going too, I assume. Oh shoot. Held off too long. Uh-oh. Alright. I will be right back.